Okay. That's some special artwork behind me from by Rebecca. I can always depend on her to, I need a background for my message. And she came up with that. Actually gave me two options. And
she's a professional.
one I liked, one I didn't. I used the one I liked. Trophies of Leaven. It was James Dobson that told the story, and James Dobson has I think he's retired now, but a powerful ministry. I think it's been transferred on to someone else, but with dealing with families and children and husband and wives, and I may not have the story exact. Greg shared this with me, and so I'll try to tell it to you. But and in school, he was really good at playing tennis. In fact, he was so good, he got a lot of trophies, and they would put those trophies in the glass, in the school, behind the glass, his trophies, because he was so good at playing tennis. And of course, as years transpire, you graduate, you leave, they put other people's trophies behind the glass, whatever. 30 or 40 years goes by, and I forget if it was a friend or it was James himself that actually found all of his trophies in the garbage dumpster. And he was able to, I think, go back and said, we found all of your trophies in the dumpster. And he was able to get some of them, or not all of them, back. And the phrase he mentioned was that God will trash your trophies. God will trash your trophies. Now, with the Feast of Unleavened Bread, I have always felt that we are missing something. Ever since I've been keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread, I've always thought, we're missing something. Not sure what it is. Maybe this will help to reveal. I hope it does, because it's a message that the title came to me 3 weeks ago, and it's certain things have happened and transpired that actually built this message up. And the part I think we really got right is Exodus 34 and verse 18. You could turn there, 34 and verse 18. It says, "The Feast of Unleavened Bread shall you keep. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread, as I command thee, in the time of the month of Abib, for in the month of Abib you came out from Egypt." Now I believe that we got that part right, because when we partake of the Passover, we eat the unleavened bread that represents Christ's body. And so the only way to really deal with something you're struggling with sin, is to fill it with something else that forces that junk out. And that would be Jesus Christ. And so for 7 days we eat unleavened bread, taking in Christ Jesus. Fill our lives with something else so that the junk has to pour out somewhere. I think we got that part right. The second part is Exodus 12 and verse 19. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses, for whosoever eats that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. You shall eat nothing leavened in all your habitations. Shall you eat unleavened bread. So what I thought was maybe what's missing is, what is this? Okay, nothing wrong with it, but the crumb hunt, as one minister put it, that we go on, and I'm not against that. There's something about the unleavened bread feast, it was always to me, not that I didn't do my own crumb hunt. I mean, I cleaned my vehicles out, I vacuumed those things out, but it was like it was more fitted for women, and I was missing something. Now, I guess I take that based on my wife, because she loves to clean, and I think she loves to cook too. She cooks very well, and so it was more like baking and cleaning, and not that I didn't do my own personal cleaning up of unleavened, getting the leavening out. But then you have, a list, some that can have a list of 640 leaven items that maybe we should avoid. And I'm thinking, okay, that's fine, but that's physically fine, but are we spiritually missing something? Because there is a big difference between the physical act and spiritually knowing what these days are all about. I was talking to Teresa, and I said, the vacuum bag. I got a central vacuum cleaner in my garage, and it works like like one of them ones you go to it don't work that good, professional, car cleaning places, but it works very well. And I looked at it, and I said, it's only got that much in it. I'm not throwing that bag away. And Teresa said, well, David said, I work during the days of unleavened bread, part-time, cleaning homes, and, I vacuum their homes. I guarantee you I'm going to bring some crumbs home in that bag from my work. And she said, we're not eating out of the bags. At least I hope we're not eating out of the bags, the vacuum bags or anything like that. So, you see the obsession that we can get into. We take an ancient old commanded tradition and we try to apply it to a modern day society. And there can be some disconnects there. Believe me. I tried to explain it. You ever tried to explain the Feast of Unleavened Bread to someone? You're not going to be the most successful person in the world, I can guarantee you that. But I explained it to one of my best friends, Barry. And he listened intently. And after listening, he said, okay, don't let your dough rise. I thought, well, okay, he's getting it. He's got a part of it right there. Don't let your dough rise. I have a theory, a belief that I think I can back up, but I think the holy days go all the way back to creation. Actually, verily my Sabbaths, plural, you shall keep. We know the Sabbath day was instituted at creation, and the reason I say that is because I'm going to give you the references. You don't have to turn there, but. Leviticus 23 and verse 4, it says, these are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. That word seasons is moed, I may not be saying that right, but it means an appointment. That is a fixed time or season, specifically a festival or an assembly. And then when we look at Genesis 1 and verse 14, it says, God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and of course the moon, the new moon, all that, and let them be for signs and for seasons. That word is the same word that's used. That means an appointment and a fixed time, a festival, an assembly. Okay, so now you might say, well, okay, why do they need the holy days at the beginning? Well, I don't know how quick they sinned. To read the account, it sounded like they sinned about on the 8th day, or maybe not the 8th day, but very quickly. I don't know. I know Genesis covers 2,000 years, so I don't know how quick they messed up. But I know that there was an offering made, a sacrifice made, and I know that from those sacrifices were skins of the animals that were given to cover their nakedness. So, but sometimes, we can obsess the yeast, the baking soda, the baking powder. I've done all this. I got this. I cleaned my home, and I'm good. I have obeyed the commands of the Lord. That story sound familiar? I'm going to get to it. So the title is Trophies of Leaven. Trophies of Leaven. I got a lot of examples up here. A lot of props. Just recently, and I want to try to get you to feel something emotional on an emotional level to tie into what I'm trying to talk about. If I can make you feel something, then there's a better chance you'll understand what I'm saying. Hopefully. So I was pulling out of one of our subdivisions that we work on the lake, where probably the cheapest home is $3 or $4 million. I'm not just talking about, endless pools overlooking the lake, and I wonder, why do they need an endless pool overlooking the lake? I mean, it's 20 feet, the water's 20 feet out there. Jacuzzi, hot tubs, 4-car garage, and I'm not talking about 4, I'm talking about 8-car garage, because in each stall is a lift that can lift their 65 Corvette Stingray that they never drive up the top and pull underneath. And I'm pulling out of these subdivisions, and I see a hitchhiker, a female hitchhiker. Now, I've met only 2 good hitchhikers in my life. Most hitchhikers don't know how to hitchhike. First of all, if the road is out here, they're 3 feet from the road, and they're doing like this. And maybe 6 years later, somebody might pick them up. Teresa knows one I'm talking about. His name's Daryl. Now, Daryl, he won't stand on the side. He'll stand 3 feet in the road. And he's looking, he's making eye contact like this. And one day I was on my truck, and you couldn't miss my gaudy truck with the American flag on it and all that stuff, and U.S. Stone and all that stuff. And I had an appointment with the doctor or chiropractor or something. I said, I don't have time to pick up Daryl. I knew he saw it. I saw him. He saw me. I zipped by him, and he's like, what are you doing? Yeah. Well, this woman was one of those types. I had 2 choices. Run over her or pick her up. So I stopped, and I moved the junk out of the seat, and because I don't have room for passengers. And she said, I'm going to Westlake, which was 5 miles from where I was going. And could you give me a ride? And she said, thanks so much for picking me up. I want to give you a gift. I took it and threw it, between us, right there, between the seat. Oops, I didn't want that to fall out. That's part of the gift. I asked her name. She told me, and I immediately forgot it. I found out she lived on the lake. I found out she was not a panhandler, wasn't looking for money or anything like that. I found out that she was very concerned about her 80-year-old father who was living alone and about him falling at night. I found out that she was into natural artwork and had a name for it, but I'd never heard of it. And I said, do you do this for a living? No, I just do it because I like it. And she said also, I've just taken up hitchhiking. Now she's half my age, and she was a rather attractive woman. Okay? And I thought, does your 80-year-old father know you just taking up hitchhiking? Because, and I'm not saying this as a boast, I'm saying this as by the grace of God, that God has placed within me a certain amount of fear of God. And I knew that in my presence, she was safe. I knew that by the grace of God. That I was not going to take advantage of her. I was not going to take advantage of her vulnerability. I was not going to use deceit. I was not going to tell her, you're the most beautiful hitchhiker I've ever picked up in my life. Actually, the only female hitchhiker I've ever picked up in my life. But I wasn't going to do any of that stuff. I knew, that's a powerful concept. When you can, by the grace of God, know that you provide a safe haven for people. They are safe with you. That's powerful. And again, not to boast or anything like that, but I knew there's all kinds of guys out there who don't have a fear of God, and something bad could happen. Now, maybe she had a 9mm in that backpack. I don't know. But, so, I dropped her off, took her to her destiny, and I said, "Thank you for the flowers." And she laughed. And she said, "Well, they're more like men flowers." So when I got out, I said, "I got to take the top off this bag. I mean, I got to rip this thing off and see what, I was I knew it was a stick out the end, so I wasn't too worried, but you never know what somebody might give you in a bag, but anyway, let's see if I can get this off here. Okay. Ripping it all to pieces. This has been hanging around for way too long, but I thought I'd use it as a prop. And but it's a stick. It looked much better 2 weeks ago. Okay. It had a bean from a tree, something she would pick off the road and tie together with wire and pine cones and pine needles and something here, a little round huckleberry or whatever, I don't know. Flowers and stuff.
It's very artistic.
Yeah. This is going on the trash. This is going on my burn pile when I get home. But it doesn't really mean anything to me. But anyway. But again, I'm trying to make you feel a certain emotion here and tie in something here. What if I took this and maybe hung it on the wall in our home like a trophy? Maybe I had several of them where I'd picked up hitchhikers, female. How many of you think that would go over really well with Teresa? Teresa might say, "Well, David, what's that hanging on the wall there?" "Well, it's just where I picked up a pretty hitchhiker." She might ask, "Do you not think I'm pretty?" She might ask, "Why do you need a reminder? For pity's sakes." What's with the reminder? Now, there's nothing wrong. The Bible doesn't say, "Thou shalt not pick up hitchhikers." It was just a matter of point A to point B. But what about our trophies of leaven that do remind us of things that was not pleasing to God, and we know it? You may still have some. Now, first of all, what is a trophy? Well, a trophy is something you get when you win. A trophy is a sense of an accomplishment. A trophy is, success. A trophy is something you've achieved. So a trophy is not something you're necessarily ashamed of. Why would you be? You're proud of it because it's your trophy. But what is a trophy of leaven? It can have the same characteristics, by the way. There's all kinds of shapes and sizes of trophies here that we have. So I want to tell you about a few of my trophies of leaven. I'm not going to tell you about all of them, but a few. I got one right here. Is that really in the Bible? No, that's not it. Okay. But inside here is a SD card. Now, when we bought that charger, it came with an SD slot. I thought, well, what is this, a computer or something? And I found out very quickly I could download 200 of my favorite 70s songs. And that thing has got one heck of a sound system on it. And I could be in pure ecstasy as I drove that car with my 70s music. Now, most of my 70s music is not bad. I love disco. Some of that can be bad. I love the Bee Gees. How deep is your love? We're living in a world of fools, breaking us down. That song is spiritual, by the way, deeply spiritual, because we are living in a world of fools trying to break us down. I love Ain't No Woman Like the One I Got. Why am I pointing that way? Okay, right. Ain't no woman like the one I got. The Spinners, I believe. Am I true, Janie? Somebody. So Janie's going to check that out for me. Right? She's going to fact check that one. Okay. Ain't no woman like that. They don't make songs like that anymore. I mean, believe me, they just don't. Who is it, Janie? Four Tops. Okay. Now the beautiful song. But there's other songs that sort of remind me of trophies of leaven, of things I did that I know God didn't approve of. And sometimes when I'm listening, I just have to skip over them, push the skip button, because of what they bring back here. Trophies of leaven. What else we got here? Entertainment can be a trophy of leaven. Depends on, what do you like to watch? What do you feed your mind on? I mean, if we think, okay, Jesus is on the couch, I got my arm around Jesus, and I'm watching, I don't know, a horror flick, or a guy got a chainsaw out, or whatever. I mean, do we think Jesus is me and Jesus, we're right there together watching it garbage? What is your trophies of leaven when it comes to entertainment? Might be some you need to trash. Might be some you need to trash. Idols, trophies of leaven. I made this in school, art class. It's an idol. As the Bible says, it has no legs, it has no feet, it can't talk, it can't walk, it can't move around or anything like that. Actually, it was a log. I just started working. Now, I took art probably every year I could. I made straight A's in art class. And my teacher was so impressed. I mean, I don't know why. He just realized this guy's creative. And everything I did, I was so good that I made a project that just passed me for the whole year, one project. And my friend Barry, who did not have an artistical bone in his body, helped me for one day on that project. And I was able to pass him also with my influence. One day. Yeah, one day. And Mr. Brown said, okay. Barry goes with you. He's passed. He passed too. Now, idols, as I've told you, Evel Knievel was a great, it wasn't an idol back then when I was 12. He did some things that impressed me. He talked about staying off drugs. He talked about, that, look, a man is not a failure until he refuses to get back up. And if you try to jump 13 buses and crash, what you do is you add another bus, 14, and you try it again and you make it. It was incredible. I mean, the inspiration he gave me. But like most idols, I study my idols. I find out more about them as I get older. And it was not good. And you'll find that out about a lot of your so-called idols. That he was, I don't know what you want to call it, a man whore, a drunkard, anger, ego big as Mount Everest, just a lot of things you find out and you think, ooh, that wasn't so good after all. Timothy shared with me a song by Styx. Now, I like some of Styx music, but I didn't know this song existed until Timothy shared it with me. Show me the way. I thought, yeah, I know Show Me the Way. Peter Frampton. I like that song. But this was different. He said, you ought to listen to it. Quoting some of the words. And every day I'm more confused as the saints turn into sinners. All the heroes and legends I knew as a child have fallen to idols of clay. And I feel this empty place inside of me, so afraid that I've lost my faith. Show me the way. Take me tonight to the, and I love how he takes two biblical examples. Take me to the river. Take me to the mountain. And wash all my illusions away. Show me the way. If you haven't heard that song by Styx, I didn't know it existed, but boy, is it powerful. I don't know idols, entertainment. I don't know why we do. I don't know why I do what I do. I found myself on YouTube watching AC/DC Highway to Hell. Now I admit, Angus Young can play a guitar. But these guys, this audience were guilty of idol worship. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it was unreal. How do you know when you got an idol? They can do no wrong. Once you transpire to that position, you've got an idol. They can do no wrong. In fact, it don't matter, right or wrong, which is basically saying the same thing. They can do no wrong. You got an idol. You may need, your trophies of Leaven may be, you got some idols you need to get rid of. Facebook. Rush Limbaugh called it fake book. And I see why. Algorithms. Let me tell you something about algorithms. You know, I watched Evel Knievel jumping on Facebook. Well, next day, I had 3 Evel Knievel jumps in my feed on Facebook. The day after I watched those, I had 10. You know, it's like, and I'm going to OD on Evel Knievel or something, you know. And it wasn't just Evel Knievel. It was every person that ever jumped a motorcycle. It was men, it was women. I didn't know how many women jumped motorcycles. And it was impressive. I'm just bombarded. That's how the algorithms work. But here's the trickery of the algorithms. Entertainment. Idols. They give you what you want. They see, you liked that, didn't you? You really liked that. Let me give you some more. And I was watching the Clint Eastwood cowboy movie. Cowboy. And it was very little. I mean, yeah, he shot a person. A little bit of violence, but I noticed a degrading, that the more I would watch, the more degrading it would get to, double barrel shotgun through the stomach, Indians scalping people. And I thought, this is garbage. This is violence I do not want in my head. Now there are, on Facebook, there's 3 little dots at the top of every video that you can click on. It will tell you, I don't want no more of this junk. It's just, it's amazing how it works, I think of, there's a movie, I never watched the movie. I've been to the place where they filmed this movie, and it's a beautiful place. Dirty Dancing. Where'd they shoot that at? Lake Lure and
Mountain Lake.
Mountain Lake. Okay, I've been to Mountain Lake. Now that's a beautiful place to stay. Boy, is it fancy. And but you might type in, okay, dirty. Nothing wrong with watching people dance. The problem is the algorithms will give you something a little dirtier, a little dirtier, a little dirtier, until you're watching something semi-pornographic. The degrading of those algorithms is something I do not like, and how they work. Let's give that person what they want. So, I'm thinking about deleting all that garbage. Okay. Trophies of Leaven. What else do we have here? Hmm. 1978. Yearbook. You ever have the person in school you didn't like? You just hated that person. And you did something like this to their picture. Might have been. You even threw darts at it. You drew a beard, a mustache, big ears, whatever. You just didn't like the person. You hated the person. I've met people that if they saw them 30 years later, they still wouldn't speak to them. I'm thinking, do you ever get over a grudge? What is, and the trophy of leaven might be, well, I have a right to be angry. Who else said that? Jonah. I've got a right to be angry. I got a right to hate. Do you? You got a right to forgive. Trophies of leaven. Can't stand that person. Oh. Computers. Actually, it's an iPad. There was a day many years ago, well, way back when, men, fathers might keep a stash of pornographic magazines, and God forbid their son would find them. But today, you don't need any of that. It's right here at the touch of a button. Trophies of leaven. I love a movie. I forget, it was Firewheel, or it was a good Christian movie where a guy was struggling with pornography, and he took his desktop out on his patio, and he takes a sledgehammer, and he just starts wailing away at his desktop. And his neighbor is on his patio watching this guy. Fireproof. Great movie. But the neighbor is watching, he's thinking, what is he doing? Well, it was a guy that was determined to destroy his trophies of leaven. Determined. So much I could talk about in such little time. A diary. Oh boy. Don't go there, David. Don't go there. Don't go there. There's a reason we keep our diaries under lock. Is there not? Well, I know it's in there. I'll put it in there somewhere, but I never had a diary. Never had anything worth writing about, really. But, no, just kidding. Just kidding. What a night. Oh, what a night. Now, forgive me, I've got like a photogenic memory with songs. I mean, it's just, they just pop up, and I can't help it. What's that? Late July 1963. I was 17. The hot July moon saw everything. My first taste of love. Bittersweet. Can be a trophy of leaven. Doesn't have to be. But it can be. It can be. And then there's a trophy of, and I wanted something up here, I couldn't illustrate it, but I tried to buy it, but I couldn't do it. But the trophy of leaven of being unattached. Unattached. I heard a statistic recently, 47% of the time our minds are not where our bodies are at. And there's a reason for that. iPhones, iPads, computers. 47% of the time, our minds are not where our bodies are at. Now, if you think about that, that's sad. That's getting up there close to 50%. We're not present. We're not living in the now. And if that describes us, you cannot love, not like you're supposed to, your mate, your husband, your wife, your children. You cannot interact with people and share and help them if 40% of the time our minds are not where our bodies are at. It's critical. It really is critical. Now I want to talk about the greatest trophy of all. Trophy of leaven is that we have to deal with what's between your ears, the mind. The greatest trophy of leaven of all. You know the story. You know the children of Israel had a problem. They had lots of problems. One of the greatest problems was, we remember. We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlics. And you're thinking, well, what's wrong with leeks, onions, and garlics? It's just a little bit of food. But Egypt represents a type of sin that they were brought out of. And what they're remembering back is not just so much the food stuff, it was, we remember back. And not only that, we want to go back. We remember. How many reminders do you have? Reminders of your past. Reminders of your sin. And a lot of these trophies of leaven don't even make any sense. I mean, to me, we remember the leeks, onions, and garlic. It's like, that don't even make any sense. But they don't have to make any sense. They're just trophies of leaven. Not that they all make sense. You remember the guy that hid his talent in the ground? Now the story is, the one he gave 1, he gave 5, he gave 10, and we know the story. The story is to multiply your talents. But I want to focus on the one who hid his talent in the ground. The value of that one talent did not equal anything compared to the 5 or the 10. It was just one talent. But he valued it so much. It was like a trophy to him. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to invest it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to bury it in the ground and hide it. How many trophies do you have? Buried, hid away. Nobody knows about but you. Then we have the great story. Well, it's not a great story. I have obeyed the commands of the Lord. And sometimes I think with our keeping of unleavened bread, we sort of say the same thing. Look, man, I got the yeast out. I got the baking soda out. I cleaned my house. I got all the stuff out. I'm good. I have obeyed the command of the Lord. And Samuel said, well, what is this bleating of sheep in my ear and the lowing of oxen which I hear? And you've spared Agag the king. What's that about? And I like to, when I read about people, when I either study my own problems or read about other people's problems, I like to know the why. I mean, what's the motivation? How could Saul be so self-deceived as to be told to do something and then come up and say, I have obeyed the commands of the Lord? Well, you see, the best of the sheep and oxen were incredible trophies of leaven. Oh, they were leaven because of what God told them to do. Big trophies of leaven. Agag was no small trophy. I need a bigger trophy. Agag was a big trophy of leaven. I my accomplishment, my achievement, what I have done, my success. And we know who gave him the success. It was not Saul's success. God granted that to him. But it sort of went to his head. Of course, we know the rest of the story. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You need to have that. Outside of your house, inside of your house, everywhere. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. There was one comedian that said, a house is just a big pile of stuff with a cover on it. He said, you see that when you fly commercials, that you get higher and higher, and you see these little shoebox houses, and it's just a big pile of junk, stuff with a cover on it. And you know, a house can represent where the Spirit of God resides, the house of God, the temple of God. Your body is the temple of God, a house, you know. And so if God peeled back the cover of your house, your home, your mind, how many trophies of leaven would he find? Would he find? Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not at that point yet. I don't know what you're thinking. Okay. What does the Bible say about our trophies of leaven? Let's turn to 2 Peter 2 and verse 19. 2 Timothy 2 and verse 19. 2 Timothy 2 and verse 19. What does God say about our trophies of leaven? Verse 19, 2 Timothy 19. Nevertheless, the foundation of God stands sure, having this seal. The Lord knows them that are his. And let everyone that names the name of Christ depart from iniquity or sin. But in a great house, whose house? Well, our house, the house we live in, the house, the temple of God. There are not only vessels of gold and silver, but also of wood and earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor. If a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified and meet for the master's use, and prepared unto every good work. Now I've got good news and bad news. The good news is that God wants you to be a trophy to honor. To honor. This is my man. This is my son. This is my daughter. The bad news is God will trash your trophies of leaven. In fact, there's a verse, and it's talking about the ministry, building a church is what it's actually talking about. If you want to reference, it's 1 Corinthians 3 and verse 15. But it talks about, building a church, building a ministry. And he says, people build out of gold, silver, and rubbish, and hay, and stubble. And said it's all going through the fire, though. It's going to be tested by fire. And it says, you're going to be saved. That's good news. But you're going to go through this fire with the foundation that you built on when you build a church. My point is this, we do not carry our trophies of leaven into the kingdom of God. We all know this. Now, I know what you're thinking. Now I'm going to get to what you're thinking. You're saying to yourself, wait a minute, David. You've mentioned a lot of stuff here. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. I've been forgiven a lot. I went down in the waters of baptism. I've been forgiven. I understand that. Then what is the purpose of the trophies of leaven that we hold on to? So, to end this, How do we get rid of our trophies of leaven? Do we just throw all this stuff away? I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm not, my songs, most of them are good. I'll tell you that right now. There's some good songs in there. And do we throw them all away? No, I'm not saying that. Do we throw all of our entertainment away? Well, there may be some you need to throw away. Our idols, we probably need to deal with them. Person that you hate, yeah, you need to deal with that one. I guarantee you that one. Do I throw your diary away? No, I'm not saying that. You mind? What do you do about that one? Stick your head down the toilet and flush it? I mean, is that gonna solve anything? No. But Jesus put it like this. He said, if anything causes you to sin, pluck it out. Cut it out. Your eye, your hand. He was not talking literally. What he's saying is, get rid of your trophies of leaven. If they're causing you to sin, if they're causing you to go back and remember, trash them. So how do we get rid of our trophies of leaven? It's the imprint that the trophies of leaven have left on our minds. And the worst part is probably we remember. We remember. That's the worst part. I want to say something. God is not so much interested in house cleaning. Not that we shouldn't do that. Not that we shouldn't get the leaven out. I'm not saying that. He's interested in mind cleaning. And that's where I think sometimes we've missed the boat. We've just missed the boat on that one. Thinking, I'm okay, I've obeyed the voice of the Lord, but have we considered our trophies of leaven? That maybe we still have. The renewing of your mind. The renewing of our minds. Romans 12 and verse 1, it's so familiar you probably don't need to turn there. But I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your body a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed, and there's a word, by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. The renewing of the mind is how we deal with the imprint that our trophies of leaven have left on our minds. So let's close out with this verse. You might say, well, okay, how do I do that? That imprint, is there. We remember. It's hard to forget stuff. Okay, Philippians 3 and verse 13. Philippians 3 and verse 13. It says, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended. Now consider what Paul is saying. He's saying, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And I don't know how close he was to, knowing. I mean, I think he knew he would be a martyr, be killed for his belief. But he says, I count not myself to have apprehended. I'm not there yet. Okay, what do you do about that when you're not there yet? But this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth into those things which are before. That's what you do. So may God give us the grace to trash our trophies of leaven.